You don't survive by proving you're good. You survive by making opportunism too expensive to try. A values dispute erupts on Monday. People speak of integrity, culture, community. You listen. You keep your voice still. Then you change 2 levers. Slip deadlines now incur a small automatic fee. Ahead of scheduled delivery earns a visible bonus. Within a week, the moral thunder fades to a drizzle. Deadlines miraculously stabilize. The loudest critic becomes the fastest closer. You didn't convert hearts. You priced behavior. This is the market of motives. Most people are not honest or evil. They are price sensitive. They scan the room for where pain is low and payoff is high. When kindness is free and consequences are vague, tests multiply. When costs are clear and rewards are earned, temptations shrink. Notice how quickly principle flexes after a new enforcement rule lands. Suddenly, the impossible is routine. Words did not change. Incentives did. Understand what respect actually is. Respect is not warmth. Respect is the memory of consequence. Fear versus love is the wrong headline. The real choice is predictable standards versus charming speeches. Charming speeches are coupons manipulators cash later. Predictable standards are locks that do not care about mood. When people know exactly what crossing the line costs, arguments end early. You do not have to raise your voice. You only have to raise the price of waste. Consider 3 scenes. A colleague forgets to include you in critical threads. You don't deliver a lecture on teamwork. You formalize a rule. Decisions lacking required, sign-offs are automatically deferred 24 hours. The forgetting stops. A client demands weekend work at weekday rates. You reply with a calm template. Expedited timelines trigger the acceleration clause. They choose either patience or price. A team member drags meetings with monologues. You set a timed agenda, rotate speakers, and publish decisions. After 15 minutes, the room learns that attention is scarce and therefore valuable. Deterrence, applied early and quietly, is cheaper than persuasion. Persuasion performs. Deterrence reforms. Persuasion begs for agreement. Deterrence installs a boundary and walks away. If someone needs your approval to obey, you've already lost tempo. If someone knows the meter will run the second they stall, they choose efficiency without a speech. Your goal isn't to be loved. Your goal is to be legible. Legible standards make manipulation a bad investment. You will be tempted to explain. Opportunists harvest explanations. Every extra sentence you give becomes a future loophole. You said, unless. Stop negotiating your dignity with paragraphs. Replace promises with policies and exceptions with fees. Write the rule short enough to memorize. Apply it soon enough to matter. Make the recovery path clear enough to remove shame. Metrics, window, restore. Carry the survival rule like a pocket knife. Map incentives. Close leaks. Enforce early. Map incentives. List the gains, fears, status needs, and time pressures moving each player. People don't hide their motives. They hide their spreadsheets. If you track the spreadsheet, you predict the speech. Close leaks. Reduce rumor. Oxygen, fewer channels. Smaller rooms. Written agendas. Tight systems are boring to game. Enforce early. Small, predictable consequences beat late. Dramatic crackdowns. A stitch on Monday saves a hemorrhage in June. Do not confuse mercy with softness. Mercy without order invites assault. Order first, then mercy, because mercy should cost effort, not invite repeats. When a good actor stumbles under pressure and meets a fair standard, they come back stronger. When a manipulator meets a firm line and finds no discount, they drift away to cheaper rooms. Both outcomes serve peace. This is how you stay intact among opportunists. You stop selling your decisions for applause. You stop believing that more transparency equals more trust. You stop treating every crisis as a referendum on your goodness. You become a ledger others can read. Price predictable, speed measured, consequence calm. The room adjusts to your number. Map incentives, close leaks, enforce early. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. You were told that transparency, kindness, and "we're family" culture would shield you. In practice, they hand your tempo to people who want to manage you. Manipulators do not need superior skill. They need a schedule, a mood, and a leash. Oversharing gives the schedule. Speed hands them the mood. Guilt is the leash. Strategy is simple. Separate clarity from exposure. Urgency from theater. Generosity from price. Transparency becomes telemetry the moment it reveals timing and pain. A public roadmap looks virtuous. To rivals, it reads like a launch countdown with soft spots highlighted. Open calendars feel accessible. To hustlers, they are a hunting guide. Attack when you are stacked. Escalate when you are with a VIP. Swarm on your one deep work block. Long decision threads in Slack sound like honesty. To ambitious peers, they are a glossary of the phrases that stall you. You think you're building trust. You're broadcasting your weak points. Distinguish legitimate clarity from exploitable disclosure. Clarity is invariant. Standards, acceptance tests, criteria, who decides and when the review occurs. Disclosure is volatile. Exact dates, brittle dependencies, names of undecided stakeholders, your private doubts. Publish the invariants. Protect the volatiles until they are history. Replace live roadmaps with shipped change logs and signed partner briefs. Move hard debates into short rooms with owners, a clock, and minutes. Share the reasoning after the decision is executed. Now urgency theater. Now or never. EOD or it dies. If you care about the mission, answer. These are not clocks. They are tools to compress your choices and cheapen your terms. Real deadlines tie to physics, regulatory filings, inventory, a plane that leaves without you. Everything else is tone and lighting. When you sprint on command, you trade diligence and documentation for the sugar high of seeming helpful. Your price drops because haste sells you wholesale. Refuse the stage. Institute response windows and make them public. Emergencies require evidence. Business needs dates. Social gets space. When someone demands speed, trade for reciprocity, reduced scope, added resources, or written ownership of risk. Move the now onto paper that cannot widen later change orders. Calendar holds with the decider present. Countersigned memos. If the deadline evaporates under documentation, it was theater. If it survives, you still protected your position by pricing the acceleration. Watch the pings designed to bypass your guard. Ping at 4:58. Quick call during your review. Moral panic in group chat. These are tempo attacks. Do not teach your system to bleed on contact. Batch replies. Guard maker hours, as if they were budget. I don't decide in chat. Put it in the doc by 6. We decide at 10. The first week feels cold. The second week feels quiet. By the third, only real work survives your cadence. Finally, kindness without cost. Niceness with no boundary is an advertisement. Low price, no penalty. Tests multiply where nothing hurts. A colleague borrows your visibility co-present today, claim tomorrow. A client sneaks scope. You smile to keep the relationship. A friend treats your availability like public property. You soothe to keep the peace. Each unpriced favor becomes precedent. Precedent becomes policy. Policy becomes resentment. And people can smell resentment even when you smile. Define generosity after order, not before it. Write the rule in one page. Hours, channels, handoffs, and consequences. Enforce with the smallest necessary move, early, without spite. If you grant grace, name the grace and the end of it. 2 weeks reduced scope, review on the 15th. 1. Rush this quarter, next requires a change order. I'm off at 9. If non-emergencies roll to tomorrow. Generosity that can repeat is built on boundaries that do not move when feelings do. Put this into scenes. Launch week. Old you streams the build, answers every comment, and posts daily diaries to prove transparency. Outcome. Rivals pre-announce, critics time their shots, your team chases optics over rollback drills. New you shares acceptance tests publicly, runs a private pilot, ships quietly, then publishes a clean changelog and a dated post-mortem. You gave clarity without gifting a steering wheel. Compensation review. Old you answers an EOD, email in a rush, apologizes for asking market rate, and sends numbers without the decider present. New you replies in your window with artifacts, benchmarks, scope, measurable impact, and requests that be meeting with the owner on calendar. If speed is required, you trade for written follow-up and a review date. Your pace stops dancing to their mood. Personal life. Old you fields midnight calls for non-emergencies, shares every fear to stay close, and lends reputation freely. New you sets quiet hours, shares from integration, not impulse, and ties introductions to accountability. Love stays, leaks stop. People who wanted your access without terms drift to softer targets. Say less, show proof, and price your yes. The Manipulators toolkit, openness, speed, and guilt, works only when you supply the data, the legs, and the leash. Close the data, control the legs, cut the leash. Replace moral theatre with structural deterrence, visible rules, visible costs, visible rewards. You will be called cold. Accept it. Warmth delivered inside order feels like safety. Warmth delivered instead of order feels like bait. Do 3 things this week. Strip 1 dashboard of live dates and replace them with criteria and proofs. Kill 1 fake emergency by trading it for scope or signatures. Convert 1 soft promise into a written rotation with comp time. Small signals travel fast. Cultures turn on the first visible cost and the first visible protection. Do not despise kindness or light. Place them correctly. Open hands after you have closed the gate. Move fast only on your clock. Speak gently after the policy has spoken. Let opponents chase your shadow while your structure moves the room. You will become less readable and more reliable, which is the opposite of what manipulators want and exactly what good people need. Keep facts public, keep clocks private, and make kindness earn its price. He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. You are easiest to command when your wounds speak first. Approval addiction, humiliation, sensitivity, and scarcity. Panic make you readable. Opponents do not need genius. They need patience. They watch for 4 movements, instant replies, long justifications, sudden discounts, public defensiveness, nudge the right nerve, and you do the rest. Strategy rarely dies from a strike. It bleeds out through your mouth, your price, and your clock. Start with a trigger inventory and keep it forensic. Instant replies are the first tell. A hot message lands and your fingers sprint. You answer at midnight to keep trust, teaching the other side that their alarm sets your tempo. Long justifications are the second tell. A narrow question becomes paragraphs, caveats, and apologies. You call it transparency. They call it reconnaissance. Sudden discounts are the third tell. A raised eyebrow becomes, if we sign today, I can shave 10%. Though scope has not changed, what changed is your fear of exclusion. Public defensiveness completes the set. Threads, speeches, and live explanations that leak your pressure points, thin timelines, shaky stakeholders, and exactly which lever moves you. Write the checklist where you decide. Reply, justify, discount, defend. When one appears, assume a wound has the wheel. Turn inventory into ritual so you can obey it under heat. If breath climbs high, drop it to the belly for 2 slow cycles. If the tongue races, count 3 beats before any answer. Replace explanations with one narrow question. What exact outcome do you want? Or, which condition is blocking you? State limits early and clean. Here is the floor, here is the ceiling, here are the conditions. Look at the 4 tells before you type. Boredom is a moat. It keeps hands off your levers. Now, the need leash. The need to be liked hands tempo to others. Praise then ask is the classic handle. We love your flexibility. Could you make a small exception today? You trade the rule for applause and receive a precedent that returns with friends. The need to be fair invites endless debate loops. You keep balancing perspectives on camera, and while you polish sentences, they set terms. The need for security sells long options for short relief. You sign bloated scopes, lock stiff contracts, or overbuy inventory and time because quick certainty steadies your chest. Each need maps to a loss pattern you can measure. Replace need with numbers and windows. Decide walk-away floors before the room. Publish response windows you obey. I confirm by noon tomorrow. Replace hope words with rule words. Not, I hope this works, but here are the terms, confirm by Thursday noon. Not, I can be flexible, but scope changes price. List changes. Those who fed on your volatility will call you cold. Let them starve. Predictability is expensive to predators and cheap for allies. Humiliation loops extract the most for the least. A public slight lands, someone mocks your price. A rival clips you out of context. A subordinate challenges you in the meeting. Pride spikes, and you perform. You set the record straight, revealing calendars, margins, contingency paths, and the lever that moves you, fear of looking small. The pipeline is simple, wound signal extraction. The signal is speed and spectacle, instant replies, long threads, defensive humor, a bargain made on camera. The extraction is information and leverage they will use later while you recover from your speech. You win the moment, you sell the quarter. Break the loop by demoting the audience. You are not there to win the moment. You are there to preserve the campaign. Scope instead of defend in public. We will address deliverables in the working session. Partition heat in the room. There are 3 issues, let's sequence them. Move from heat to ink. Write what was claimed, what is true, what will be done, by whom, by when. If a correction is due, make one small, verifiable action and stop. If no correction is due, do nothing. Rage buys applause. Records buy leverage. Install a cooling protocol so quiet becomes a habit, not a mood. First, delay windows. No public statements inside 24 hours of any public hit. No concessions inside 72. Second, 1-sentence acknowledgements. Noted, received. We will review Thursday. These are doors without hallways. They prevent you from walking into traps built from your anxiety. Third, second mind checks. Require a counterweight, legal, operations, or a trusted peer to sign off on penalties and exceptions. If you lead alone, make tomorrow's you the second mind. Schedule the decision and let your colder self approve on paper. Fourth, written rationale offline. Before any hard move, state the rule, the breach, the cost, and the aim. Writing drags motive into daylight and scales the punishment to the line you are protecting: time, cash, information, or morale. Study the common scripts because they are written for your wounds. against approval seekers, counterfeit clocks, offer expires at midnight, and praise then ask. Your counter is the window you already posted, decisions finalized tomorrow at noon. Against fairness actors, baited debates framed as just to be transparent. Your counter is scope and template, submit in writing against the criteria. Against security, panic, weaponized silence. They vanish so you fill the void with discounts and details. Your counter is the two-touch rule. One follow-up, then wait. Against status anxiety, comparison traps another team shipped in a week. Your counter is sequencing. Quality requires order. Earliest start after deposit is the 15th. Make it practical tomorrow. A prospect writes, match X today and it's yours. Your chest tightens. You breathe low. Decisions finalize after review tomorrow at noon. Current terms stand. A manager asks on camera, can you reassure us now with numbers? You keep cadence. Numbers publish Friday after reconciliation. A friend texts, why so slow? You hold your window. I respond 9/7. If that rhythm doesn't fit, we may not align. Calm is not decoration. It is the gate that protects every other choice. Remember the hidden law. The first one to move under pressure loses the option to choose. Instant replies sell time. Long justifications sell privacy. Sudden discounts sell price. Public defensiveness sells the map. Power is not a pose. It is a schedule you keep when feeling begs you to break it. You can still be generous, warm, and admired on your calendar, within your rules, never on a leash. Inventory the triggers that predict your concessions. Tie each need to its invoice and refuse to pay in haste. Map the humiliation loop and cut it with delay, scope, and records. Install the cooling protocol until it runs without permission. Your opponents will test the old handles: approval, fairness, security. Let them pull and feel nothing move. You will look less eager and more inevitable. That is the face that holds a realm. Quiet first, then terms. Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see and few can touch. Your spiral begins when the wound reaches for the keyboard. A small provocation lands a sly aside in the meeting. A vague post that smells like your name. A quick question with a hidden blade. You answer on cue. The message is longer than your authority requires and warmer than your office allows. In that rush, you spend credibility to feel better now. Your opponent does not wrestle the facts. He seizes the frame. The story becomes your breath rate, not your reasons. He sets your clock and sells your urgency as guilt. Walk the steps like an audit. Minute 0, the jab. Minute 1, your paragraph. Minute 3. For context, you leak details that never belonged in daylight. Minute 5, he replies with 10 cold words that own the hour. Minute 7, you escalate to screenshots and subtext. Minute 9, a short question widens the hole. Minute 12, you contradict a clause from minute 1 to plug the leak you made. Minute 15, apology for tone. Minute 18, apology for substance. By minute 20, you have traded author for defendant and mortgaged tomorrow's leverage to pay for today's relief. This is tempo loss. He does not require you wrong, he requires you rushed. Make pace non-negotiable. Impose a tariff of time on every reply. Draft on paper where there is no send button. Route heat through one advisor who gains nothing from your noise. If they choose the hour, you choose the format, one paragraph with nouns and dates. If they choose the format, you choose the hour. Silence is not surrender when it buys position. It is custody of the frame. You are not paid to flail, you are paid to decide. Receipts and reversals arrive like rain after thunder. Haste splits you into versions. At noon you swear by principle, at 2 you plead feeling, at 6 you carve an exception, Just this once. None is a lie. Together they look like design. Screenshots turn into coins. Timestamps betray you. A sentence softened at 1-3 lives forever in 10 private chats by 1-4. Later facts do not rescue early theatre. They sit beside it and make you look split. Your rival does not need to forge evidence. He only needs to stack your edits in sequence. The archive becomes your prosecutor. The timeline becomes your cross-examination. Quantify volatility's price so you respect it. A frantic thread can shave points off a valuation because buyers price distress. A public reversal can add oversight gates to a project because sponsors insure against your heat. A promise spat out under pressure becomes a bargaining anchor. You admitted X, therefore you owe Y. Every edit you make to soothe today becomes a paragraph read aloud tomorrow. Relief is cheap, the invoice is dear, structure is armor. Answer the charged claim, not its orbit. Swap mist for nouns, heat for dates, posture for records. If you are wrong, name the act and the repair once. If you are right, let the clock carry your case. Speak as if an enemy will read your sentence to a jury, because he will. Draft, then pause. Delete the memoir voice, present the ledger voice. The goal is not to look clever in the minute, it is to look inevitable in the hour. In statecraft, brevity properly armed is force properly placed. Now ally attrition. Allies are not a chorus, they are lenders of time and credibility. High-maintenance leaders burn calendars. The senior engineer who must triage your outbursts at midnight will soon anchor a roadmap elsewhere. The board member who must defend your reversals will hedge until neutral looks like wisdom. Neutrality, left alone, drifts to your rival because your rival wastes less time. People do not leave because they hate you. They leave because your weather ruins their season. Reverse the drift with cadence. Promise your inner circle. I will speak once, clearly, after verification. Keep it. Send brief, factual updates before anything public so no ally is blindsided by your impulse. Reward the reliable in daylight. Correct the volatile in private. Document both. Predictability is kindness in a coalition because it lets serious people plan. When your tempo is known, patient partners stand closer, opportunists lose angles, and spectators grow bored. You do not need applause. You need a clock others can trust. Apply visible consequence without spectacle. The reprimand executed on the day promised deters better than any speech delivered in heat. The cancelled contract with a one-line notice educates faster than a month of public scolding. Compassion inside structure strengthens order. Compassion outside structure is cruelty to the reliable. Resolve necessary harms in a single, exact act. Distribute benefits in regular, quiet doses. The room calms not because you roar, but because the price is clear and the clock is kept. Then the tightening leash. Public flailing invites guardians. Oversight rises because markets insure against risk. Shorter leashes, smaller scopes, pre-approvals. Autonomy converts into checkpoints. Your signature becomes a counter-signature from someone less talented but more trusted. Each panic becomes a clause. Each reversal becomes a weekly review. You think you are buying relief with words. You are renting permission from people who now price you as volatile. Dependence is built one safeguard at a time until your office feels like a queue. Measure that leash so you respect it. One late-night thread can turn a single approval into 3 stacked gates. A messy town hall can convert a flexible budget into milestone rations. A contrite but unplanned apology can lock you into permanent concessions, discounts, free months, escalated support, because once you bargain from guilt, the market keeps pricing you as guilty. Tomorrow's autonomy dies in today's relief. Reputation debt compounds. The interest is control surrendered to other hands. Plan while the waters are calm. Build the ladder before the rain. Rule visible. Private warning quoting the rule and the clock. Measured consequence on schedule. Restoration path clear to all. Cold process. Warm tone. No sarcasm. No spectacle. Prepare 3 moves you hope never to use: containment, consequence, restoration, and rehearse them in quiet. The public should see one page at the right hour. The machine beneath it should have weeks of practice. Statecraft is not improvised, it is revealed. Modern scenes are blunt. A competitor launches a feature aimed at your crown. You want to clap back, you do not. You ship a counter, announce once with dates and numbers, and let posture be inferred from pace. A manager performs insolence in the group channel. You skip the sermon, issue a written correction Wednesday at noon, enforce Friday at 5, and close the loop. A former partner posts a personal story. You decline the theater, speak one line to the only person owed an answer, and shut the door. Each choice is small. Together they say, your hour is yours. Return to the hinge. Hold the hour until your sentence can move the board. Provocation is bait for time. Your opponent does not require your error. He requires your rush. He wants statements you must edit, edits you must explain, explanations you must pledge, pledges he can price. Refuse the chain. If the matter is real, it will still be real in an hour. Use that hour to gather records, harden language, line up allies, and choose one move that widens options. Identity holds when the wound does not hold the wheel. Strength is not louder breath, it is slower timing. Own the clock, guard your records, move once with weight. He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. Drop the fantasy of winning hearts with reassurance. Rooms don't stabilize because you plead well. They stabilize because your standard is visible and your enforcement is quiet and certain. Calm is the table, but ink is enforcement. If you want safety, sign agreements that survive weather and apply them the same way on good days and bad. People don't need your explanations as much as they need your pattern. When your pattern is reliable, trust appears. When your pattern is unreliable, love becomes theater. Respect before warmth. You can be liked and ignored at the same time, praised at lunch, bypassed at the decision. Respect starts when people can forecast you. Fix your rhythm and remove your mood from the price. If a meeting starts 10 minutes late, it still ends on the hour. If someone misses your window, the reply moves to the next cycle. The rule doesn't argue, it executes. In an office, the fun lead buys pizza and then begs for weekend miracles because scope leaked all week. The team smiles and hedges. Replace charm with cadence. Priorities by noon Monday, midweek check at 5, Friday wrap with next steps. Miss an upstream handoff twice and the task loses scope next sprint. No speeches, no heat, just sequence. In dating, say no to late-night arguments and keep it when you're provoked. Predictability crowns trust because people can plan with you, not around you. Consistency is not stiffness, it is legibility. The more legible you are, the fewer tests you face. Volatility is how weak rulers create fear by accident. Reliability is how strong rulers create peace on purpose. Set one tone, keep one timetable, and let people map themselves to you without bracing for impact. That is the first layer of authority. Terms over stories. Stories feel noble, we understand each other. We're aligned, our hearts match, but they dissolve the moment pressure rises. Translate feelings into scope, cadence, credit, and consequence. Scope. What is inside the fence and what is not. Cadence. When updates land, when silence is normal, and when renegotiation opens. Credit. Who is named and how gains are split. Consequence. What changes when a promise slides. Publish once, refer often. When terms are written, you don't fight about memory. You follow the map. Examples. Work. 3 deliverables by the 10th. Updates Tuesday and Friday. Product owns scope. Finance owns budget. Legal owns risk. If a deliverable slips, we cut scope, not sleep. Collaboration. 2 posts per week. Shared dashboard. First of month renegotiation. If either misses twice in a month, we pause or rebalance. Family. I visit first Sundays. If booked, I move to next month. Guilt does not alter the calendar. Intimacy. We discuss conflict in calm hours. Shouting ends the talk for the day. Cancellations within 6 hours cost the next slot. These are plain sentences, and that is why they work. Terms convert care into a schedule. Both sides can keep when tempers are hot. Publish your decision rights to end moral theatre. If product calls scope and you own timing, arguments shrink to facts. If you own your sleep, late pings route to morning. If you own your budget, generosity has a number. Loyalty becomes measurable when responsibility is named. People say systems are cold. Systems are what let warmth survive pressure. Renegotiate only with new facts. New market, new role, newborn facts. Busy, crazy week. You know how it is weather. If you let weather rewrite the law, you teach the room to pay you with storms. Keep the line you drew when you were calm. Move it when reality moves, not when excuses speak. Over time, even critics will call that fairness. Signals, not pleas. Please rent trust for a day. Signals buy it for the long term. Reduce promises to almost zero and make your value observable. Set response windows you can keep, and then keep them. If you run on 24 hours, reply within 24. If you need 48, claim it and meet it. Document decisions who decided, on what scope, by which date. Maintain delivery cadence when tired. A rule that fails on bad days is decoration. A rule that holds on bad days is governance. Price others by their signals, not their speeches. After a miss, do they repair unprompted with a plan and a make good, or do they perform apology theatre and ask for faith? When you say 7 sharp, do they arrive at 7 or at 7:12 with 3 texts? When you decline with respect, do they escalate or adjust? People reveal respect in how they treat your limits when no audience is watching. Adjust access to match patterns, not compliments. Mercy after order. Kindness has weight only when the rule has teeth. Mercy before boundaries reads as weakness. Mercy after boundaries reads as strength. Sequence matters. Line first, leniency second. When someone breaks the rule, the consequence lands cleanly. Scope cut, slot released, access paused. Only then, if it serves the larger piece, you add mercy. A one-time exception documented, a smaller penalty for self-reporting, a path to re-earn priority. Mercy that overwrites law teaches predators. Mercy that then follows law teaches citizens. Picture the teammate who misses a deadline and arrives with tears. If you grant an invisible extension, you train the room to weaponize crisis. Instead, the task rolls forward. Future scope shrinks until delivery recovers. Later, once calm returns, you offer a tight mercy. Ship a reduced version this week to rebuild cadence. In intimacy, the rule is no public fights. The first breach ends the talk for the day. The next morning, you walk and restart. The law remains. The pardon proves you are human without inviting another breach. Here is the reframe. It was never love protecting your life. It was standards you kept under heat, terms that outlived moods, and enforcement so quiet it felt like gravity. Be readable. Publish scope, cadence, credit, and consequence. Enforce without noise. Then give kindness that doesn't weaken the wall. Loyalty grows where people can breathe inside the rules and trust the gate. Standards first, then mercy. A. Prince must be a fox to recognize snares, and a lion to frighten wolves. Niccolo Machiavelli. Surviving manipulators is not about winning debates. It is about denying them cheap terrain. You lower their angles, harden your timing, and raise the price of every trick. This is not moral theater. It is governance. You will be courteous. You will be precise. You will be impossible to hurt. Begin with the motive grid. Gain, fear, status, time. Score each player, including you, on observed behavior, not claims, and update weekly. Gain asks what can be banked. Money, access, favors, leverage. Fear asks what loss they scramble to avoid. Exposure, delay, blame, abandonment. Status asks which self-image must be protected. Expert, savior, martyr, rebel. Time asks which clock beats them. Quarter close, launch date, visa, exam, a wedding on Saturday. Write one sentence per box and a number from 1 to 10. Patterns tell you which lever to pull and which nerve to avoid. If fear and time run hot, cool the room and slow the tempo. If status blazes, protect dignity before pressing for data. If gain dominates, negotiate in units, dates, deliverables, dollars, no adjectives, no theater. Make it concrete. The helpful colleague who offers to fix your deck minutes before the meeting. Gain, narrative control. Fear, being sidelined. Status, needs the mic. Time, wants a Friday win. The vendor who loves 7:30 p.m. crisis calls. Gain, rush fees. Fear, losing the account. Status, hero under fire. Time, inventory pileup. Your move becomes simple. Shrink the stage, move to paper, and let numbers carry the room. Next, lock tempo standards. Manipulators live on impulse bargains. You abolish the market. 3 windows govern you. In person, 1 full breath before any substantive reply. Over text, 3 hours. For formal issues, 24 to 48 hours. Acknowledge fast, decide slow. In person, the breath is your moat. Count silently, sip water, jot 1 word, and let heat drop. Over text, 3 hours buys verification, not excuses. For formal matters, publish the clock so silence is not misread as surrender. Received reviewing, reply by noon tomorrow. If pressed, answer now or lose it. Anchor the frame. I'll respond after verification. Expect my note at 4 p.m. The clock is governance, not avoidance. It prevents you from buying relief with regret. Now, reduce surface area. Manipulators multiply channels because fog hides strings. You cut rumor, oxygen, and leak vectors. Fewer channels, smaller rooms, written agendas, archived decisions. 1 email thread, 1 shared doc, 1 calendar event. No side chats for real choices. No, since we've all gathered, ambushes. If someone attempts a hallway pivot, quick change, you route it. Capture it in writing. We'll review at 4. Spectators turn sparks into fires. You remove them. Agendas hold 3 bullets, time-boxed. Decision rooms include only owners. Afterward, you archive the outcome where everyone can read it and no one can reinvent it. Boundary execution is where manipulators learn price. State terms once, enforce quietly, escalate once. Offer a path back that costs effort, not pride. Terms are simple lines, scope changes in writing only, late arrivals reschedule. Budget edits require receipts. When crossed, you act without a sermon. Move the talk to a single thread. Revise the invoice. Pause access, or reschedule with a witness. If patterns persist, execute 1 prepared consequence removal from deploys or from the account for a cycle. The path back is measured in metrics and time. 2 clean weeks on time and on scope restores standing. You do not punish to feel powerful. You price behavior so order is cheaper than chaos. Stories turn steel into memory. The helpful colleague tries again. First time you thank them and say, "Send edits by 4. Anything later moves to next week." Second time, you lock the deck and publish the agenda with presenters set. Third time, you remove them from the live review and invite written comments only. You escalate once, not hourly. The room stops bargaining with your patience because your patience is not for sale. Finally, install option multipliers. Manipulators thrive when your no is expensive. You make no cheap and fast. Money. Keep a secondary vendor with signed rates and a modest retainer. Split invoices into tranches. Maintain a shadow budget for failure paths. Time. Mirror repositories. Keep a pre-drafted change order. Rehearse a 2-minute switchover checklist monthly. Attention. Publish office hours. Route chaos into forms. Set auto-responses that move live debate into documentation. Options are not fantasies. They are signed papers and rehearsed moves. Calm in public comes from choices you paid for in private. Run the system through modern scenes so it lives in your hands. Vendor at 7:30 p.m. Costs doubled. Approve tonight or we slip. The grid says their time and fear are hot. Status wants heroics. Tempo. Received. Send itemized changes with receipts and the clause permitting adjustment. I'll reply by 10 a.m. Surface. Move to a single thread and attach the signed scope. Boundary. If proof aligns, approve via change order. If not, pause work until documentation arrives. Options. The standby supplier is on retainer. If the math fails, you switch cleanly without speeches. 1 calm step replaces 100 emotional sentences. Dating. A late night, come now, text. Grid. Their status play is high. Time set to now, your gain low. Tempo. Acknowledge. Do not answer. Let's plan Thursday at 7. Surface. No DM ping pong. Plans live on the calendar. Boundary. If pressure returns, access reduces, then closes with 1 line. I plan in advance. Take care. Options. Your evening already has a replacement that feeds your future. You are not cold, you are costed. Workplace politics. A manager. Labels. You not collaborative. No specifics. Grid. Their fear of missing targets. Status needs control. Time is quarter's end. Tempo. 1 breath. Surface. List the instances with dates. Let's capture in a shared doc. Boundary. 2-week probe. Weekly check-ins. Decisions logged. Owners named. Options. 2 written endorsements queued. A warm pipeline outside if rot continues. Escalation. If labels persist without facts, HR joins with a memo attached. You are not dramatic. You are exact. Rooms respect the person who governs process under heat. End each week with a fast audit. Grid. Did any score change? Tempo. Did you keep your windows or let pride sprint? Surface. Did you collapse threads and rooms? Boundary. Which line fired and was the path back clear? Options. Which backup warmed? Your aim is not to be feared. It is to be expensive to exploit and easy to trust. Manipulators starve where curiosity meets forms, urgency meets clocks, and ego meets archives. Understand this. Clearly, you are not playing saint or villain. You are building a state. The state runs on clocks, records, options, and laws that do not wobble for the loud. You will be accused of being difficult by people who cannot steer you. You will be called calm by people who benefit from your steadiness. Accept both. Keep the system and keep the schedule. The fox sees the trap. The lion ends the chase. You are both on time, in writing, with a fallback in your pocket. You will not win every hour, but but you will stop bleeding weeks. You will not silence every voice, but you will make noise unprofitable. That is survival, and that is power. Measure motives, rule the clock, act once. Standards do the shouting so you do not have to. The dividend of stability shows up in ledgers first and faces second. When your lines are bright scope, timeline, decision rights, consequence, the guessing game ends, and costs stop hiding in fog. People stop trying to buy your attention with emergencies because your clock does not sell fear. Meetings shrink to what can be decided. Handoffs tighten because maybe is no longer legal tender. Good partners prefer your room for one reason. They can plan without courting your mood. Vendors remove the rush surcharge when you never buy in a rush. Predictability becomes profit. Fewer reversals, cleaner handoffs, days that end on time. Stability also right-sizes fear. Everyone knows what happens when the line is crossed, and that knowledge does most of the policing. First miss, correction. Second, consequence. Third, exit with dignity. Because the script is public and the timing exact, disputes fade into paperwork instead of performances. You root praise down and accountability up. Respect becomes routine. The room grows quiet not from suppression but from clarity, and in clarity people work. Talent stays because the floor is solid and the ceiling is clear. From survival to strategy, incentives mapped, tempo fixed. You stop negotiating with appetite and start negotiating with math. You reward early signals with time and tax, late surprises with cost. You define response windows fast for fires, deliberate for everything else, and others adapt to your pace, because ignoring it is now more expensive than joining it. A colleague who once arrived with sirens now arrives with evidence and two options. A client who used urgency as leverage learns to brief on Monday if they want signatures by Thursday. Your schedule becomes a constitution. Your calm becomes policy. Strategy becomes logistics. You move, talk to briefs, briefs to decisions, decisions to signatures. Reversals require new data, not new moods. You separate advice from authority by naming who carries the risk. You choose where you are reachable and for what. Interruptions become petitions for time instead of commands. Dashboards are dull by design, leading indicators, failure thresholds, triggers that fire before the smoke does. Beneath each bright line sits a buffer, a vetted second vendor, a documented handoff, a week of slack no one brags about, but everyone depends on. Order stops being a slogan and becomes a supply line. Your system stops selling your decisions. You no longer trade standards for likes, speed for applause, or access for flattery. A competitor shouts, "You do not sprint." You map failure modes, wait one cycle, and ship the quiet update that outlives their headline. A partner wobbles. You restate terms, add a safeguard, and continue without heat. Even rivals behave cleaner at your border because your consequences arrive on time and in proportion. The message spreads. Here, outcomes follow rules, not moods. Rooms get quieter, choices get cleaner, and results start looking inevitable, not because people got better, but because the system stopped auctioning your judgment. Now, the quiet crown, night glass, a long table, too many slides. Heat arrives, an overrun, an accusation, a plea for exception. You let the first exaggeration hang until it condemns itself. Then 3 sentences. What is approved? What is cut? Who is accountable? One date moved and made final. You speak for less than a minute. You do not raise your voice. The room lowers theirs. The standards you posted last quarter finish most of the governance. You do the rest by standing up. The meeting ends on the schedule, not on the volume. This is the payoff. Rooms that run on standards, not moods. Fewer crises to rent your hours. Clearer offers that respect your time. Alliances that hold under stress, because the rule, not the noise, carries the weight. You do not chase peace, you administer it. And the world, relieved to find a steady metronome, begins to play in tune. Hold the line, keep the pace, let the standards speak.